can see clearly now, the rain is gone.
We were ecstatic to finally be getting out of the vehicles and to begin the trekking portion of our trip. As we entered a side canyon known as the Zumlung Chu, Chu means stream, we had officially begun the Jumlam, or middle way, across the Zanskar mountains. Immediately, the nature of our trip was set as we began crossing the Zumlung stream over and over and over and over again.
Dry, warm feet, that feels pretty good. Pete, you got those feet of yours dried out yet?
Our first camp was a bit disorganized as the ponymen and camp crew got used to where everything had been packed and which animals could carry what. But it all worked out, and the next day we immediately began the long slog to the top of our first pass, 16,240 foot Char Char La. We didn't make camp till late that night, as what trail there was completely disappeared after the pass. We arrived tired and a bit discouraged. The year previous, Ladakh and Zanskar had experienced an outrageous monsoon season that brought quantities of highly unusual rain. As you can imagine, all the loose rock of these canyons came sliding down and obliterated the trails and what few bridges there were. Our trip was going to be a true cross-country adventure. Because we had not gotten to our intended camp that first night after the pass, and because we understood it to be a full day's hike from that camp to the juncture of the Kurna River, we decided to fall a day behind plan and enjoy a short quarter-day's hike. It wasn't to be. The map was obviously wrong. After almost a full 10 hours of hiking, we had to improvise a campsite on a sliver of riverband. The weather was good, however, and the attitude of the group amazing. With nary a whimper, they all adjusted to the new reality and welcomed it as an unexpected adventure.
Disappointment was my closest friend, but then you came and he soon departed, and you know he never.
When we finally arrived at the Kurna, a day behind schedule, we found it was running quite a bit higher than what the ponymen felt comfortable with. Nonetheless, it provided a magnificent campsite, and we were all in awe of what a hell of a trip it had become. The map showed we'd have to deal with the Kurna for only 3 short miles. Departing early, so the river would be as low as possible, we managed to cross it only twice before the ponymen said they would go no further. We re-established our camp at Tilit Sumdu, and the great hope was the river would go down, but everyone knew it was a long shot. We were faced with returning the way we had come. Hoping against hope, Tom and Ed perform a puja to the river spirits. The next day, the ponymen had a change of heart, and we were off. It would take us another 2 days to progress the 3 miles and get past the Kurna, but there was no turning back now.
You remember we used to run and hide in the shadow of the cargoes. I take you one time, we're counting all the numbers down to the waterline. When near misses on the dog-leaf stairway, French kisses in the darkened doorway. Foghorn blowing out a wild and cold. The policeman, he shines a light on my shoulder.
Thankfully, our bout with the Kurna finally came to an end, and we began climbing up a side canyon which would eventually lead to Zanskar Pass, the dividing mark between Zanskar and Ladakh, and in our minds, a return to civilization.
Over my shoulder, all you can see are the pie. No money in our jackets and our jeans at all.
Pete's feet had suffered the effects of the previous exhausting day, and he took to a pony. I think all of us were a bit jealous, as it was another long slog to the top of 17,055-foot Zanskar. We were now 3 days behind schedule, so instead of turning south over Kankawangpola to Nimiling Meadow, we headed east, straight down to the Marka Valley. This allowed us to make up 2 of the necessary days. The remaining 1 remained under debate.
Never change your mind, yeah.
The first bridge of our entire trek was a giveaway clue that we'd arrived at the village of Hankar. Looming high above it was an ancient fort which felt like a vision right out of the Lord of the Rings. After so many days in the wilderness, it was fun to have a cultural component to the trip once again.
Almost 40 years, but never changed my mind.
We began running into other trekking groups, but they were few enough that we stopped and talked to each of them. Because the Marka was lower, it was also hotter, but the many parachute cafes along the way provided a perfect combination of shade, beer, and a chance to chat with locals and fellow travelers.
Let's make some romance. Though the night is falling and the music's calling.
In the village of Marka, we visited a local's home and were treated to butter tea and chang, the local barley beer. In return, Ian performed a little garage band rock and roll. It primed us for that evening's celebration of Tom's birthday.
Come on, baby, let's dance.
The next morning, the young girl of the house was sad to see Ian go. When Tenzing called her over to have Tom's birthday balloons, she came running, but unfortunately tripped. She was mortified in embarrassment, but Tenzing was so sweet, draping the balloons around her. It was brutally hot this afternoon, and we took a mid-afternoon siesta to escape the worst of it. We had been debating how to make up the day we were behind schedule. One idea had been to keep going down the Marka, but in the end we decided to hike up the Sumdu Valley and across Gandala as planned. We would make up the day coming down from the pass in 1 day instead of 2. Sumdo proved to be quite beautiful, but it was bittersweet as we worked our way up to what would be the last camping night of our trip. Our last campsite was at about 15,000 feet and offered some beautiful late afternoon light. The crew went right to work as usual, preparing our last dinner. They had been wonderful travel companions, all from Lahul, directly south to Ladakh, and have worked with Hashmat for years. After a long last day, which included a wait for the vehicles, which were delayed by road construction, we were back in Leh. There we enjoyed a free day on day 22, then down to Delhi on 23, and then we dispersed to the Four Winds, all in agreement it had been one hell of a trip.